call a PUC to order for Monday, June 3rd, 4 o'clock. Please rise and join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public input. There's no public. Correspondence. I don't think we have anything current. Approval of meeting minutes of our regular meeting of May 20th. Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion, we accept those minutes of May 20th.
Second. Are there any additions, deletions, discussion?
No.
What's that be? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Carries. Financial invoices. A low volume amount for this first meeting of the month. Make a motion that we approve invoices in the amount of $4,321.18.
Second, discussion.
Discussion.
Rev, tell us, I'd just like to know one thing, maybe I'm being cautiously cheap.
Okay.
Project travel expenses and technology and communications charge, $140 for telephone? Travel expenses nearly $200? Wow.
Oh, it's coming from North Carolina.
It's not coming from.
I honestly, I don't have a backup to that at the moment.
Because we don't have a contract with them, we just hired them to do the study, didn't we?
We hired them, and we have a not to exceed for sewer and a not to exceed for water. And I have to go back and read his letter proposal. I'm sure it indicates that there's going to be expenses involved with that.
Have you gotten correspondence? I mean, it says it's 83%
I think this includes his visit to us. Again, I don't have the date in front of me as far as when he came down and gave us the preliminary spreadsheet of both sewer, and we talked about water. So we had a meeting with him, I don't know, maybe an hour, give or take, hour and a half. So I know he had expenses coming down here. I don't know if I have anything further. I can certainly
Can you
get
forward?
those from him if you want to hold on to this one for the moment, and I'll get it from
Well,
him
I
next meeting.
think the thing not to exceed, that includes any other expenses, doesn't it? Wouldn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, so there's a price not to exceed, so.
And he's honored that on the one because it went over, and he then deducted back the credit to keep it at the agreed to.
All right. Can you share any information that he's given you to the rest of the commission?
Basically, we're in good shape with water. We had given him, he's been doing water now for several years at this point. The last time he did the update, we included the capital improvement plan and future projects, which we've been working towards. He says we're in good shape with water. I think the plan was 3.5% increases over all of these years we've been going forward with. So he says we're on track with water. Sewer, I gave him, basically for a capital improvement plan, I gave him my guesstimated number for what the Danbury project is gonna be, based on our share being 15 million, spread out over 20 years. And then I gave him some construction projects and some planning projects that we've been doing on the sewer side, the sewer, sanitary sewer evaluations, and then some preliminary construction costs to improve the infiltration and inflow situation. So I just gave him some numbers so he can start putting a model together. We need to refine those numbers, and that's how we left it. We need to get a better handle on what the Danbury numbers are, and actually it's a good thing that we held off because we really still at this point don't know. And maybe by the shape of things, that number is going to come down a little bit from what we thought. Still remains to be seen. And then I think really what we're going to end up being able to do is, on the construction side, we're probably gonna end up backing into a number that our rates can justify. And it may be $200,000 a year in improvements, or it may be some other number or some other way to go about how we're gonna basically finance the capital. And that will be a point of discussion here at our meetings.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we left things now with sewer.
It'll be interesting to see with the construction of the Danbury plant, and we have a rough idea
Correct,
of what our share is gonna be.
correct.
So how are we gonna assess our users for that? So,
I think part of
Is it gonna be an assessment, it's gonna be converted to gallons, or?
I think we're gonna have to look at everything, whether we're gonna fund it through rates, whether we're gonna have an assessment plus a rate increase. There's probably different ways to do it, but we know it's coming, and it's something we're gonna need to come to a decision on in the coming months.
Yeah.
So I at least wanted to give him a start. We had the infiltration inflow study done by Wesson and Sampson. It did outlay a 10-year capital improvement.
Right,
That's
right.
kind of what I started with. And there's additional sanitary sewer evaluations for the different sub-areas. So I plugged in some of those projects maybe every other year with construction in between. So we'll be able to mix and match a number of what we can basically afford to do. And if that number is 200 grand a year, maybe that number is gonna be a little bit more or a little bit less.
Yeah.
So the contract ceiling on the water side is 10,000, is that what it is?
I think it was 10,000 on the water side and 15,000 on the sewer side.
So this is only relating to the water side, right?
Correct.
Okay. So he's almost at the end of his money here.
And he'll finalize something for us, and then he'll come in and do a presentation for us as well. That's gonna be part of it.
Yeah, and just if you get any updates, if you can just send an email on to the members. So
Yeah, for sure.
So we have a chance to review it before,
I agree.
the guy comes down.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be something I'd wanna give you on a Friday and
Yeah.
have us look at it on
Yeah.
a Monday, yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on the invoices? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Director's report.
Since last meeting, I've been putting together some payment request paperwork for various projects that we have. On the sewer side, the sanitary sewer evaluation, the 9, 12, and 15, we're due to get reimbursed on some of those. So I've been putting that invoice package together for the state. I've been putting together the water mains, 2018 water mains that were currently under construction. I put my first grouping of invoices together to get reimbursed on that. And I have a third one on the payment we just made to True Blue Environmental for Briarcliff. So I've been doing basically some of that paperwork and starting to put together some numbers on capital and operating expenses for next year's budget. And that's all I got.
All right. New business. No new business, old business, the summit ownership. I think we pretty much covered that last meeting.
I left that on there. The minutes reflect that it was gonna be pending Marty's final review. And there was a question that I brought up with pavement maintenance. And I realized I also had an email or some correspondence going back to like February that talked about pavement maintenance, and I didn't quite get the same answer then that I got at the last meeting, so I think we still wanna look into that
Okay.
before we finalize.
Yeah. All right. I guess you're up, Maris.
Okay, so I'll go through my handouts of projects. The 2018 water main replacement construction on Fernham, Tremont, Whitlock, Malillo, and Pleasant. So after the last meeting, I reached out to Grasso, and he was kind of late getting back to us, but he got back to us today, finally. So he'll be back next week on Monday to restart his construction, and the crews will remain until the projects are done. So he'll be back next week and finish up the work for the water mains. Additional groundwater supplies, Bergstrom Field well. So the reports are under review by Connecticut DPH and DEP. We actually had a meeting with Tom, it was last week, Tom, or a couple weeks ago.
It was the week before.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago with Connecticut DPH, so we took him through the report, and they have a gentleman who's gonna be reviewing that, so, there was no really red flags, we went through the whole procedure, what we did with the pump test, with the wells, and kind of the timeline when we would like to have everything approved by them. And they have a gentleman working on a project right now, and, we told them, if any questions, give us a call, so you can review it pretty quickly. And then, we still haven't heard from the DEP, I think they're in the process of reviewing it. But after the meeting with the Department of DPH, they basically said DPH will basically bless the project, so they're gonna, promote the project with the DEP. So that's a good sign, because they know that Bethel needs water, additional well.
Now, on that subject, and I don't know if it's you or within house here, about the test on the quality of the water
Yes.
relative to minerals,
Sure.
and I guess we were supposed to run it 24/7 for I don't know how many days, and
Right, so.
taking a look at the iron and
Sure.
whatever's in that.
So what we have to wait for, the approved rate from the DEP, what the maximum rate is gonna be. We apply for 800 gallons a minute to run from the well, but we need to wait for their approval, so when we do the test, we run in the right well. Like, we don't wanna run at 800 if they're only gonna approve it for 700, 750, because the results may be different. So we're waiting for that to basically get a blessing on the final flow rate from the rate, so we can run it at, the full design capacity and figure out what that water quality is gonna be like. Because that way you have to do twice.
We have no idea when that's going to occur.
Well, DEP has indicated that their diversion permit review would be a 6-month period. So in past years, it has been much longer than that. I'm hoping that now, more currently, they're keeping to that track.
We submitted in April, so we, 2 months in.
Doug Hoskins, who's the leader of that group within DEEP, he's been fully aware over the course of the last couple of years
Yeah, that's right.
minimum of what we're doing, and I don't think he's raised any red
No.
flags from his office at this point. Not to say a staffer from fisheries or from one of the environmental,
Yeah.
Subgroups isn't gonna have a red flag to raise, but indications are it should be a 6-month process. We're hoping, they can maybe get to it sooner than that, but that's what we're looking at.
So we didn't get that paperwork up there until April.
Yeah.
It was-
Yeah. Well, we need to finalize, we're waiting for the reports from people and finalize the report. We wanna make sure that we cross our I's and dot our T's, make sure everything was in place, so.
Takes her.
Okay.
Okay.
So next one, the SCADA design, I guess, Tom still has their proposal letter for the phase 1, I think, I don't know, if that's probably starting sometime July, that's in the budget, I guess, for next year, or?
Yeah, that's something I'm looking at amongst the
Okay.
other things, so I haven't gotten to that final decision yet.
So the Chestnut Ridge tank, so we're working on the design and permit drawings. The borings are gonna be happening this Wednesday, so we're gonna be out there, and I went out there today before the meeting with Tom, just kind of look at the boring locations, and we actually adjusted the tank location a little bit, Rich, we moved it away a little bit from the property line.
From that property
From
line.
the property
thank you.
line, yeah, we
I
moved a
think
little bit
it's
more.
a good move.
Yeah, so we did that with Tom before the meeting, we stake it out again, and, they'll be here on Wednesday morning doing the borings and aligning everything, so that's good, and then, I'm working with Tom on the preliminary schedule for submission to planning and zoning and wetlands too, so I think we wanna try to submit before June 20th to basically get our, July agenda, Tom, is that the schedule?
Yeah, there's at least with P and Z, there's they have to accept the application, they need to have a public hearing, I think they have to wait a minimum of 30 days.
Yeah.
So I talked with Beth to look at their agenda for the summer and see where we can get a submittal, so we can maybe get an approval here prior to September. That the best we're gonna probably do is their August meeting, and they only have the one meeting in August, so I wanna try to have them available for a decision at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
The borings, how deep do you go?
but we're going all the way to refusal, like 50 feet, or,
To hit ledge, eh?
They're gonna hit ledge, so if it's a foot, 2 foot, or 8 feet,
Yeah.
they're gonna drill till they hit it, then they know what they're up against.
and then we also taking, ledge probe, so we're trying to qualify the ledge, is a hard ledge, is a soft ledge,
Yeah.
so then they know when to blast, what to deal with, so it's not only drilling the bore, it's also, taking out the rock cores and figure out, how strong, the ledge is. So we're doing 5 borings, so one in the center, one, south, north, east, and west, and then we're doing some borings along the water main to the road, to make sure that we find out what the ledge is there.
It's similar to the Eureka tank where the ledge goes up the hill, so it's hardly any in the beginning and then it gets
Yeah.
more
It's a
on
bit
the
harder, right?
backside of it.
Yeah. And then, by moving the tank, we also provided some more screening to the neighbor, and we also probably were able to save more trees, which would
Yeah.
be good, so. And then the 2018 water main replacement design, so I guess it's still under review by DPH. The fella that was reviewing it, he was on vacation and he broke his ankle, and they got somebody else reviewing it now, so it's still pending review and approval from them to go out to bid, so.
Rich,
Yes?
in regards to that, Mary's too.
Sure.
You're the one that brought up at the Board of Selectmen an alternate street. What was that street? I don't remember what it was.
It was Maple
Maple Lane.
Lane.
Maple Lane, okay.
So I need to add it into the,
Well, that was an alternate in case the bids come in, that's all,
Right.
that we would
Right.
include that too. So,
Yes.
yeah.
and that was included part of the submittal to the DPH, so they were.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I need to update my little memo here because it's not listed here. It should have the alternate Maple Lane. Yeah, good point, Marty, thank you. So somebody else is reviewing it, and we'll stay on top of them to get it to us so we can advertise with that project.
I mean, do you really foresee anything?
No,
So, I mean, you have all the specs written and everything.
Yes.
Everything is
to
ready,
go.
yeah.
We just need their blessing before we can officially go out to
Yeah.
bid.
yeah, it's the same specs.
You also need the blessing of the Board of Finance too, which will be a week from tomorrow,
True, yes.
hopefully.
So we'll call DPH tomorrow just to follow up where they are with their review. I know they have a guy working on it because he called a few questions today, so. So that's it for my update. Any questions or? No? Yeah.
I have just a question on fire clip.
Sure.
How's those pumps working? They're not cycling every 400 times a day?
I think they're still cycling. We went out, we closed valves to try to find out if when we shut this valve, does it settle down? And we really haven't come to any definitive, aha, there's a problem
Yeah.
somewhere.
All right.
We had, we sounded, we had, who's the guy we had come out? He did a correlation.
Underground
They-
solutions or something, I can't forget the name of the
They
company.
put a device they drop a device in a valve box here, so it's magnetic, so it sits on top of the valve. They'll drop another one here. If he knows the length in between them and the type and the size of the pipe, he plugs all that into his computer program, and on the spot, if you got a leak, if it's 100 feet in between, and this one comes out, it's 30 feet away, and this one comes out, it's 70 feet away, you got a pretty good idea, you got something. The sound waves didn't give us anything, so. The guys that did the startup for us, since we don't have any kind of a tank on that system, it's just the pump keeps the pressure. He indicated a bladder tank would be beneficial.
Well, that's what I was gonna
So,
suggest. I mean, do we need to look into the design of that?
We're gonna do that part of the Chestnut Ridge tank.
one of my thoughts was at the time we're doing construction to install the tank, we may wanna drop a vault. Because I
Yeah,
don't think that's something we wanna have exterior above
No,
grade.
underground.
yeah.
But I don't think it doesn't
Could that
have to be
it?
in where the
Could-
tank
Can that be
is.
up on our
Yes.
tank property?
It could
You
be
know,
on the tank property, it could be on that right of way.
Yeah, on the right of way, the closer to the road, yeah.
So our thought was maybe investigate some kind of a bladder tank and
Right.
see if that kind of slows down
Slows it down.
the cycles.
Or, get
We
the tank-
actually have that air release that Tom and I had talked about, the air release at the
Yeah.
highest point. We could probably put something on there even as a test to see if that.
Well, I was just thinking of that, if we, rather than going through a lot, I mean, I'm sure the engineers can design it, something, but as a test
Yeah.
temporarily before you do a vault and everything.
We could
Please.
probably purchase a bladder tank and secure it, and it could be above grade, because it's
Yeah.
not gonna freeze now.
Yeah.
Tie it in to where we have that
Just to see
connection,
if it makes a
and
difference.
see if that makes a difference before we drop a
Yeah,
vault in, of course. Yeah, that was what we talked
It's
about.
just, the on and off of any pump is not good,
Does it cycle on and off all the time?
yeah.
Yeah, it's constant.
It doesn't recirculate?
No. That is really, there's no, it's between, Tom, what is it, 95 pounds and 105 pounds.
Yeah, locally down at the station, you got a set point pump on and a set point pump off. So it's it's, straddling between 95 pounds and 105 pounds, so something's causing the pressure to drop, pump on, then it fills it up, pump off, and then it drops, and it's just cycling.
So, I mean, there's no city sewer up there, so you really don't have a.
Place to go.
Well, I was thinking you could tell if someone's septic sewer was leaking.
And we listened on curb valves, we checked all the services out.
Yeah, no
The
one's.
one house we thought we might have something in number 11, we finally got in touch with them, we shut it off, nothing, there's no change at all. And everyone's already, no one's using their bladder tank or their pumps up there, because that was one of the questions we asked the people.
Yeah. All right, we just.
The tank would help because, the Hoyts Hill pump station is a similar tank, and it's cycling nicely. It's a much bigger neighborhood, and it's working fine. So the reason why we didn't put a tank originally, because they recommend to put a tank in the highest elevation in the zone, which will be in the Bright Cliff, and, we didn't have the land. Now we have the land for the tank. We can incorporate it as part of the construction project if it works, so.
Well, maybe in the meantime, we can, figure out the size of the tank, and maybe get the tank and just try it and see how.
We thought even
That
if we
makes a
strapped it to
A tree.
a tree or put a
Put it
pallet
on,
down.
put it on a pallet
Yeah.
You know,
and chain it to something so it doesn't
Yeah.
walk
we're
away.
not talking a lot of pressure, and there's a piece of copper sticking right out of the ground from the blow off, the air
Yeah.
release up the top, so it's not a big deal.
The Hoyt's tank is that a 200 gallon
200
tank?
gallon tank, yeah.
So we're not looking at much of a tank
Tank,
for,
yeah.
for the flow that we have up there.
You have any idea how often Hoyt Hill cycles? We have a lot more main and stuff.
And
so
a lot
I
more
mean,
customers, so I haven't timed it really.
I was just curious.
Yeah, you do see the flow pattern at night though, she shuts down. It's not
Usually
dead
from
off
11 to
all
5,
night.
11 at night, 10 at night till about 5 in the morning, it almost goes to no use at all.
Hoyt's.
At Hoyt's.
It means they're good pipes, no leakage.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah. Okay.
While we're on that subject, my favorite subject, the generator.
Yes. I haven't been able to get a third electrical guy up there, but I have that on my list to give an electrical guy a call and try to get that going.
Rizzo?
Marissa or Lucido?
I was gonna give Shock a call,
Yeah, they did the job originally.
right, and Rizzo, I guess I don't know now if Rizzo's gotten,
So big.
Lucido, Mike Lucido.
We haven't had them in town for about 12 years,
Oh, yeah.
for reasons, but things change in 12 years, but no, we kind of got away from it.
I'll make sure I get a couple of calls out
All
this
right.
week.
All right.
So, getting back to this pump, I'm inquisitive. That goes on at what, and shuts off at what pressure? What's your pressure switch that at?
It comes on at 95. It's 95 pounds and 5 seconds, I think it is. It's
You're
got
trying to
s-
maintain 95 pounds in the system.
And then what's it drop down to?
Once it hits 95, then the pump comes on. When it gets up to, I think it's 105.
Yeah,
for-
they have a
it's
10-pound
5 or 10
span.
seconds, then it'll shut down. And then it'll slowly drop. But what's funny is that you can see it in the meters of these homes. You can see it go backwards a little and then go forward. But there's really no water usage. That's why we're thinking this bladder may make up for it. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah, it
meters
could
go-
be, it could be air,
Yeah, it could be.
especially
I
in
mean,
back and forth, you know
I
what
think
I'm
we'd
saying?
see, I think we'd see the air now.
What about a jockey pump?
I mean, those pumps are almost jockey pumps.
I'm not saying a constant, you've got a constant flow to maintain it, so the big pump doesn't kick on.
The pumps are, what are they?
The same size, yeah.
They're small.
And then
like
VFDs,
5 horsepower
then
pumps.
VFDs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And only one's coming on.
Yeah, that, yeah.
Even with a smaller pump running all the time, it would want to shut off because it would overpressurize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't, you'll see them, like I say, you watch the indicator on the meter, you'll watch it spin backwards, and then it'll go forward, but there's no change in gallonage. So we're not, it's like we're not losing water, but it is, the pressure's going back and forth just a little bit. It just, we're hoping that this bladder will correct that.
All right. Well, let's look into that so
Yep.
we don't lose the pumps.
Mhm.
Those were American-made pumps that are
Yeah.
readily available.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and the third thing is the proposal of acquiring the property at Chestnut Ridge. We had a town meeting.
Yeah, I just left it on there for a point of discussion. If
Marty, you have a check for my
I
understand.
just got the check for the deposit, so I'll be sending that out. So,
There's been no other discussion on the piece of property
Nope.
from anybody?
As far as I know, the owners, the sellers they don't have any issues. So we're proceeding, we're moving forward now with the P and Z process.
Okay, great. All right, Kelly, you're up.
Three things since we last met. Floor protection has been added to Paul Street for the three manheads that get opened up on a daily basis. Those are the two outside over the wet well and the one over the pump room. And what that is when you open up the door, it's another protection that comes down. It's down all the time,
Oh,
so no one can.
oh, like you have over in a wet well over here on
Like,
Maple Avenue.
yeah, plum trees, same
Yeah,
exact thing.
plum trees,
So,
yeah.
so if you have to work in there, you open the lid and then you open up the protection and you know, you keep it down. It locks itself, it's spring loaded, it'll come up once you release it, but when it goes back down, there's no way of anyone falling in there. Since we last met, I told you how we had more services on Grandview that need to be flipped. Those have all been flipped from the 2-inch galvanized to the 8-inch transite out in the street. The tap for the 2-inch has been removed, and the saddle has been, not a saddle, a Band-Aid has been put on the main. So, and we've had no problems. We got
Everybody.
And like I told you, we really thought it was just gonna be one side of the street. Well, it turned out to be up to 20 units that were on that galvanized line. 16 of them we had to flip. We found a couple lead leads, which were good. We got those out of the system. And that's all buttoned up.
Okay, great.
And then the third thing is, I was saying before the meeting about we had a main break Friday morning. Came in just after 8:30. By 9 o'clock we had it shut down. By 11:15 there was a crew on site from Tinker. And by 3:15 the water was back on. It was had to be a hammer in the system because it blew out a chunk of main, probably about that long off the side. But we had to replace 8 feet of main because it cracked all the way to the next joint. But for time frame and, you know, what went on, the crew did real good.
Yeah.
They got it down.
where was that?
Judd, right,
Number 17.
just above Ann, like maybe 2 houses above Ann. The only thing is we definitely damaged the road. I mean, the road definitely lifted, so we probably won't see it till the end of the summer, how it's actually gonna show up, but that's gonna be on us, even if it's just one lane. One thing about when Bobby does a street, when he does that full depth reclamation, there's no water that came up in the street. The majority of the water came up around the manholes or behind the curb onto the property line. So that just says something about when Bobby does a street, he does it the right way. But other than that, we're status quo.
Okay, and our hydrants are all done?
I've got 2 left, one at the bottom of Hickok, and one at 149 Greenwood, and I'm just waiting for them to find time to do it. The one on Hickok, we're gonna have to do a little bit out in the street there. We're gonna have to put a 45 on the branch line because of where the hydrant is and the neighbors. It's not worth the aggravation of tearing down our lilac tree, because she's already given us a hard time about cutting back some of the bushes. So we're gonna kick it up the hill just a little bit. Plus, it's off the direct corner. You know what I mean, on the bottom of Worcester there.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're in good shape, and I'm kinda hoping we just started June, I'm hoping by the end of June we can get out and start doing the, you know, before it gets real hot, start doing the hydrants again.
How about,
for flush.
there was a hydrant on Taylor by the,
That hydrant's gotta be relocated. When that was a weird setup. When the main was extended up there to Draper's property, that was right off of the end of the line. And what it did, it had a 90 and another 90, and then brought back going toward the tracks. So I had them cut that right off of there, leave that one out of service, and then what we would have to do there is do a whole new wet tap on that. It's not really a priority because of where hydrants are located, and there's already so many, and was that that's not Canthall, yes, no.
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt, they have plenty of their own hydrants in there, so it's really not a priority now, but that's what that's gonna need is a wet tap.
All right. Well, if it's cut off, can you cut the hydrant off so it doesn't look like the hydrant has a black bag over it?
Yeah, you know what, I was gonna reuse the hydrant, it's just the point, because it's only 10 years old, I installed it when I was with Birmingham,
Okay.
right, 50 years old. But, yeah, we can do something with that.
Yeah,
That's
it's just, you know,
It's
it
nice.
looks like hasn't been repaired, and that's why the bag's over it, so.
But that's the reason for it.
Maybe when they come back to do Hickok,
Yeah,
they can swing by there and just,
yeah, we'd have to dig it up, or we just break it off at the traffic kit.
The 149 Greenwood, that's the library, right?
I'm sorry, 249.
249, that's in
That-
front of the library?
No,
Well, that's
that
the
one's
one
missing the
for a
steamer. That has to be dug up, and I've gotta make sure I got somebody that can put the blocks back in. Because that's in the pavement
Streetscape.
section of the sidewalk. There's another hydrant 50 feet away from it, but what we think is when the state snowplows come by in the wintertime, they rip the steamer right off of it, and they're leaded in. And the hydrant's old. But that's the issue with that one. That could actually be just taken out of service. And again, that's another one that, we had Tommy Kane, the last one we did up by English Drug, Tommy Kane, his guys came in and reset the pavers.
Yeah.
So that's trying to line up something.
So there's gonna be no hydrant in front of the library?
There's one but probably about 50 feet away.
and one across the street, I think.
Yes, there is. There's one across the street from the bank. There's one in English Drug. And then
There's one
the
by the
two
glass
right-
company, isn't there?
The glass company's
By
got
the
one.
glass
Right,
company.
right.
I don't, what's wrong with the hydrants? I mean, you don't have to go into any real technical stuff, but what, the valves don't work on them anymore? or-
That particular hydrant, the valve is off, but what happened was a snowplow come down and sheared the steamer. It hit the steamer connection, the 5.5 end on it.
Right, yeah.
They got close enough with the plow, they hit the steamer, ripped it right out of the front of the main, and those I'm gonna say pre-1980, there's lead. They're put in and they knock around them with lead, and that's how they hold the steamer connections in. Well, that came right out. So, and again, it's an old hydrant, it's probably from the 50s or the 40s. It should just be removed, because there's another one right down the street. But you wouldn't think a plow could get that close, but they did.
You got the wings on the plow or
Yeah.
something,
It wouldn't surprise me, but
because they hit that one plus the other one down.
yeah, the one, well, I don't know, that might have been a private guy there, because that
Oh, yeah.
was laid over pretty good, yeah. But that one's back in service there too.
Any results after the fire? Any conversations with the fire department or anything? Yeah.
Nothing at this time, no. We have, we talked with the fire marshal a little bit, and he understands a little more about how, you know,
Are-
the way the system's working.
Are we gonna have sort of a review with the fire department about how to handle a big fire like that?
Well, the problem with that is, Paul,
That wasn't.
you don't want me to come in and tell you how to handle the water and sewer. They don't want to be told how to fight a fire. But as for
Number one, that wasn't a big fire.
no, you're right.
Number two, it was an incipient stage fire when they got there because the smoke was white.
Yeah.
And when they opened up the door, it went from white to light gray, to dark gray, to black. And they just poured water on it, but they forced it through the building. They never ventilated it, and that's the problem with that fire. Plus, they dumped more water on it than they needed. But nobody thanked the building department, because we put a 2-hour wall between the buildings, because it was too big, and a 2-hour wall between the office, never breached either one of them. The guy opened up in the back already, and the offices never got touched.
The only thing that got breached was they went in there, opened the door, and left it open.
That's right, that's right. And that's the problem.
But it's Paul, it's one of those things that you can't tell them how to fight their fire. We can tell them where to get their water supply.
The problem you have with these metal buildings is they don't make any provisions to have access to the exteriors. You got metal on the outside and you got metal sheeting on the inside. So once you cut the outside, you still have to cut the inside. You think they would put access panels in case of emergency to get at it, because You won't go on the roof, because it's definitely, with that much heat, I wouldn't put anybody up there.
Right.
And there's no smoke vents in these things, it's not required. One other question I have is that, on Briarcliff, remember he talked about pressure reducing valves. Anything over 70 pounds, you gotta put a pressure reducing valve on them, on that domestic water line. So if you're pumping 100 pounds pressure, you've got too much water going in these houses.
Yeah.
I will bring the building code in next week, next meeting, and explain to you that you can't exceed 70 pounds. So,
Maybe you can have a couple of guys go up and take some pressure reading at a hose.
just take it,
hose bit.
just put the gauge on the outside faucet and turn it on and see what you got.
We know what we got, because we know what we got where we started from.
Right.
So the house
Yeah.
next door, it's got some pressure, and then by the time you get up one or two houses, they're below that,
Yeah.
because you just
Well,
raised
it-
it.
Well, that house should have a pressure, one of them
Yeah.
should have a pressure.
But there, what about all the homes all over town that exceed that?
Well, they don't exceed that.
Sure they do.
Where?
A perfect example is,
Milwaukee?
My
bottom
mother's
of,
house.
bottom of Milwaukee's probably 122 pounds
Well,
pressure
that's the problem, that's, you're, something happens, you're liable.
Well,
You gotta read
that
the-
was an existing thing maybe down there.
You gotta
but
read the code.
We
I
changed the,
understand,
we
all right?
changed the pressure.
What
at
you
Briarcliff.
have doesn't make it right, all I'm trying to
Yeah.
tell you is, I was in Avon, they had 150 pounds up on top of the mountain,
Yeah.
right? We had to put a pressure reducer valve.
Well, that's why I've seen a lot of, in looking through Aquarian and regional waters stuff, a lot of, what I've seen is like agreements with property owners as far as low pressure or high pressure. And they tend to say, this is what we're giving you, and if you need something more, here, you gotta sign this hold harmless. So they have like these written agreements, right?
We had
But-
that at Birmingham. when
But I
was
know
there.
if you surveyed all, however many of our customers, there's gonna be more than a couple that have greater than 75 pounds,
Right.
no doubt.
What I'm trying to tell you is, to make the owner notified that he's got excess of pressure to put a pressure reducing valve in. You can't, you're liable, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You can't walk away from it, it's the code. It's no different having a sewer line in a basement that's below the manhole in the street, right? It's gotta have a back water valve, that's in the code. Oh, we got a lot of them. Doesn't make it right, if it backs up with sewer, who's liable for it? We are. That's all I'm trying to tell you. I don't care what you have, if
Right.
you know there's a problem, they should be notified.
Paul, just one thing, and I said it the last meeting, our system performed the way it was supposed to perform for that fire.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was error, there was no error on our system, and I just want that to be
Yeah.
known. No, our system did exactly what it was supposed to for that
And
fire.
it recovered the following morning, right?
It recovered that
Yes.
night. Yep, it recovered that night.
Yeah, the tank was coming back up by, it probably bottomed out by 7:30, and it was on its way back up. And they just we continued to work with Danbury until we got it to a certain level at about 11:30, and then we knew we were gonna continue to.
Are we being charged? I guess we are gonna be charged for water coming out of Danbury, right?
I haven't heard anything from him yet, so
I'm not asking.
it may just be,
It comes to money, you know, I get bothered.
All right, anything else?
That's it.
Entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Can we have a minute? Can I
Yeah.
just quickly go over something?
thank you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Where?
The problem
Yeah.
is, doesn't make it right, even though you have it. You're liable for it.
Well, when we changed it, yellow situation.